It is bigger than last year, bigger than the year before, and I know you entrusted Turner, Glenn, GT, to your amazing vehicle Bean.
Yeah, indeed. And look, it is the most amazing car show. I mean, I've seen car shows all over the world. This is phenomenal. I think they've cracked 1,000 cars here today. It's extraordinary.
He said they had 770 pre-bookings.
Unbelievable. And I'm lucky enough to be a judge here as well, so it's been a very difficult thing to sort of walk around here and go, which is the best in this absolute treasure trove of cars.
How do you do that?
Well, I don't know. I love it because the whole motoring fraternity is such a welcoming crowd, particularly here in Orange, and it's great. And so I get a bit sidetracked with looking at the cars. People want to have a chat. The conversation never stops.
But as a judge, what do you look for? Because there is just so many different breeds, varieties of cars.
And it's difficult to tell too, because some of them are so old you don't know what's original and what's not. But it's just the way they're presented and the love and the workmanship that's gone into the car. That when you talk to someone and you know the passion, that helps. It comes out on the car, brings it out. It's wonderful.
We were just talking, Glenn and I, to a local guy called Ian Curtis that bought a property, came up from the Hawkesbury, bought a property and found a little bit of a Chevy, 1935 Chevy in blackberries on his
yeah,
and he dragged it out and then began the passion, and he's here today. It's a magnificent vehicle, but it's become his life's passion across 30 years.
Yeah, because they're almost a living thing when they're like that. You're putting so much skill and craftsmanship and love into it. And you can't leave it alone until it's a finished project. It's a real labour of love.
The story of the Bean.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, it's an interesting thing because we drove the Bean, as you know, from London to Melbourne, which is a very long way, and we were retracing the tyre tracks of an Australian adventurer called Francis Birtles. I happened to discover his car in the National Museum of Australia in Canberra. It was sitting there in the dark, this bashed up vintage car. It had a little sign on there, this car, blah, blah, blah. And there was a plaque on the side. It said London to Melbourne 1927-28. And I thought, that's the most amazing story. I became obsessed with the Francis Birtles story, wrote a book about it, and I'd always intended to try and follow his tyre tracks. Found a Bean, did it up, and we did it.
How did you hear the rumours about how bad a driver Glenn Turner was before you let him loose on it?
Oh, yeah, I knew about it. It was.
He rides the clutch.
Yeah,
apparently.
it was. I think the BBC World Service did a whole story on that once. On Glenn Turner's driving. Yeah, he's famous, notorious for it.
Now, just away from cars for a second, you are a very famous cartoonist, and you were just saying 40 years this year with the Daily Telegraph.
Indeed, yeah.
How did your passion for cartoons, what was the genesis?
Well, I'm a very visual person, obviously, as cartoonists would be, but I loved writing as well when I was, growing up, and I was lucky enough to have a children's book published when I was 16, which was not yesterday, but anyway, and so I was going to be a teacher, and I just thought, I don't really want to be a teacher. I'll try journalism. I got into journalism as a copy boy, which was just a sort of rouseabout kind of thing. And then I would sit there and draw and write, and they were watching me, so you can draw and you can write. And sort of cartooning is a wonderful marriage of writing and drawing, and it sort of went from there. And I was been lucky enough to work for the Daily Telegraph and Sunday Telegraph ever since.
But the satire.
Yeah.
How many times? How close to the edge do you go? 80%, 90%?
Oh, lately I've been going 110%. And it comes back to bite you sometimes, Yeah. And I know there are some politicians, federal politicians particularly, who really don't like me. But that's the nature of the thing, But it's the reader you look out for. You're always looking out for your readers. It's so important. Yeah. And because it's such an embarrassment of riches at the moment with what's going on, not only in the United States, but what's going on here. What's going on with the opposition?
It's gone
the
nuts.
Coalition.
It's gone nuts.
How did that happen? Where did that all come from? The most amazing thing.
But then, at the other end of that, you've got politicians that have your work in frames on their wall.
Indeed, absolutely. And it was an amazing thing. Some years ago, I've had a lot to do with Anzac commemoration over the years. I was appointed to this commission, the National Commission for the Commemoration of the Anzac Centenary, with Malcolm Fraser and Bob Hawke and the cartooning guy from the Telegraph. And because when I sat down, these two former prime ministers who had been absolutely pilloried, Malcolm Fraser and Bob Hawke. And then, it took them months to kind of thaw out because they were just waiting for me. Every time I put a pen to paper, they'd be leaning over to see if I was actually going to draw something. It's true. But, we got on okay at the end of it.
Have you thought about the cartooning history of Australian politics?
Yes, I have actually. I thought it would make a really wonderful documentary. I'm surprised it hasn't actually been done. But
it's a staged history of humour and satire.
It is, of course, and of course the oldest regarded cartoon in Australia is one of Governor Bligh being dragged out from under a bed by the rum corps, and I think it was drawn in Parramatta. I think it was pinned up on a shop window or something. But it was because people didn't know how to read and write. But the picture, they got the picture. And that's the thing about a political cartoon. It only has a lifespan of about 4 seconds. Someone opens the paper up, they look at it, they read it, they laugh at it or cry at it, or have a good thought about it, and they move on. So, it's been a very important thing within Australia and Australian history. And we've produced some of the best cartoonists in the world, no shadow of a doubt.
So is the AI thing affecting you at the moment? Because it seems like everyone's turning into a digital producer, satirist.
Yeah, you can see there are you can see more cartoons that are appearing online that are clearly AI cartoons. They have this certain look about them, and not having a go, but the people who've thought this would make a great cartoon are generally not the best cartoonists, so it doesn't really read as a great cartoon. I mean, that's happened with humour a lot. I was talking to somebody the other day. You don't hear people telling jokes much anymore, like you used to hear in the pub or whatever.
Yeah,
it's because you've got memes, and that's the modern way of doing humour. But that's just the way things change. But I think cartooning, people love it, and there's something in a newspaper online because it's hand done and it's not done by a machine, and you can go.
But it's the subtlety of the satire in the expressions and what you've presented in a still frame. Like, it's not a moving thing.
No.
So you've got to capture your whole message in a still frame.
Well, you're kind of like a movie producer every single day. You've got the layout of the cartoon and where things are going to go, the composition of it, and, where the voice bubble, the caption, it can't be too far over here because it'll look wrong, and there's a lot going on with it. And I draw 7 days a week.
Is there times where you're in the car and something comes over the radio and you're busting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the worst thing is when you have that and you get back to the office and you go, I've forgotten what it was.
Like a dream. You wake up.
What was that? I lost it.
Yeah, quite right. We're talking with famed and cartoonist Warren Brown, who's the special guest for this event here today at the New Bar Car Classic. Now, he owns a car called the Bean. He drove it, as he mentioned, from London to Melbourne. Where did you find that?
Well, it was interesting. I was looking for a Bean but prior to that, I'd driven a 1907 Itala from Peking to Paris. And we made a television series about that, and so I was keen to do it again. I was on the hunt for a Bean. Now, they're a rare car because they only made about 4,000 of them, of that model. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a valuable car, just that, they didn't survive very well. I got wind of somebody in Canberra who had one, and I convinced this chap to part with it, and then over the past 20 years, we've pulled it apart and rebuilt it, and pulled it apart and rebuilt it, and then my co-driver Matthew Benz, who's the editor-at-large for the Daily Telegraph, we took off, had our great mate Tony Jordan, the team mechanic, and off we went. It was fabulous.
Now, I put a car together that had been in my shed for 32 years, actually one Tirana, but I'd gone through a whole series of BMWs, Turbo 6, about the same size as the Tirana, and when I got this thing registered again after 32 years, I thought, this is going to be horrible on the road. This is old.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. So what's the Bean like to drive?
Well, it's a handful of a thing. I mean, it is 101 years old this year, and of course it has no roof and no doors and no windows and no windscreen wipers and no seat belts, and if it rains you drown, if you're in the Arabian desert you fry, but it's a lovely thing. And I know Matthew, when he's in it, he just says to me, this is a happy car. So the great thing for us was we're in Saudi Arabia in the desert, and we're going from service station to service station. When we'd arrive, all these kids come out from nowhere, and anyway, we got to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. The Australian ambassador says, do you realise you're the number #1 trending topic on TikTok in Saudi Arabia. What an honour that is.
What was the country that you found most challenging, and how many countries did you do, by the way?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. To add it all up, I think we did about 17 countries. I think so. Believe it or not, Australia was one of the most difficult places, because we arrived in January. We're in Darwin in the wet season, and then driving south on the Stuart Highway in the wet season with storms arriving and lightning coming down, then heading into Western Queensland in summer. At Tennant Creek and then into Western Queensland. That was very hard, and then that was a difficult thing, because there's only really like a window of opportunity weather-wise. You don't want to be in a European winter, you don't want to be in an Arabian summer, you don't want to be in an Asian monsoon, but the payback or the payoff is in Australia. You're going to be there in the wet season or in the summertime, but at least you're back home, you're on home soil. If anything goes really wrong, you're not too far strung out. So Arabia was my favourite place, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Well, mate, it's a fascinating story.
No,
but
thank you.
It's at the end of something like that. Like a couple of years ago, I did a round Australia in XU1s for Peter Brock.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And same sort of thing. No air conditioning, 42 degrees top in Western Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Days where you thought, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, the satisfaction and then the attachment to the car that's got you there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
magnificent.
Yeah. I can't ever imagine selling the Bean. I love the thing so much. But who knows? We might drive back again. Maybe go Melbourne, London or something. Who knows?
You have a very good employer.
Yeah.
Warren Brown, thank you so much for being our special guest
so
today.
Much, Dodge.
It's really been fun talking to you. It's been a great day.
Lovely.
Congratulations to all the Gnoo Blah committee, and safe travels home.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Back to the studio.